webinar is now broadcasting to all attendees. Is that right?
Okay.
It's a one-stop shop for primary, secondary and tertiary packaging. And this is a distribution business where we're able to source and partner with global packaging suppliers. And we have a national footprint that enables us to service customers all around Australia. Rigids is a manufacturer and distributor of high quality rigid containers, both the bottles themselves, as well as closures and the related products and services. There's some examples of our product offering you can see on the screen there. In terms of our history, since the company was listed in 2005, there's been a number of acquisitions, more than 20 in fact, and only a few of those are on the screen here today. But really what the company has been able to achieve since 2005 is a really broad and deep portfolio of various packaging products. With the major one there in 2007 is when PB Packaging was acquired, and this was the bottle business, the rigid business that was acquired in 2007, followed by a corrugated cardboard business in 2010, the meat tray business in 2013, the integrated packaging business in 2017, and then polyplastics in 2018, and then finally Perfection Packaging in 2018. In terms of the numbers around our business, the market capitalisation as of last Friday was 166 million. We have about 850 employees around Australia and New Zealand across 19 factories and warehouses. The business currently has provided guidance within a few weeks ago of achieving a $30 million EBITDA for this financial year with an expected net debt position of $60 million. In terms of our focus for improvement, that's really identified through these 6 points. The first is focusing on a zero harm journey for our employees, making sure that every person goes home safely every day. The second is really around having the right team, and this is critical to the success of the company. Making sure that we have professionals on our leadership team and that we focus on our people is core to the success of our business. Focusing on business mix has been particularly important. This is where it's really focus has been really around the quality of earnings that the business has been able to deliver, as opposed to focusing on top line growth as a sole focus. Margin growth over the course of the first 6 months of this financial year has been solid. And that's just really driven through operational efficiencies and procurement savings. We've been able to in turn deleverage the business. So our net debt was reduced by 22.2 million to 76.6 million at the end of the first half. And that was really through disciplined cash management and improved earnings performance. Sustainable working capital has been our final pillar of activity. And this is really around reducing working capital to further improve our net debt position and the efficiency of our cash. Flexibles, like I said at the outset, is our flagship business unit. It's our core growth engine for the company. It contributes about 60% of its revenues and about 76% of the group's EBITDA. The markets really we're focusing on here is really around agriculture and FMCG. Those are two really significant market segments that are both have the highest growth potential. We're also very focused on closed loop activities, and one of the key activities we're driving at the moment is the DuraTrack railway sleeper initiative. DuraTrack is a composite plastic 100% recycled railway sleeper. This is where we're able to take unwanted plastics and convert those into high performing durable railway track sleepers, and for every 60 tonnes of waste we can lay about 1 kilometre of railway track. They last about 50 years, which is a really important improvement on the current 30-year lifespan of a concrete sleeper. And not only are they great for using recycled material, we can recycle them over and over again, even when they're at the end of their useful life. The main focuses in our flexibles business is really about investing for growth. And recently we announced an investment of capital of around $7 million. And of that, we'll be investing further in additional capability and technology for local manufacturing and extrusion. We'll be continuing to improve our operational fundamentals and advance our site consolidation to reduce our operating costs. And of course, most importantly, making sure that we stay very close to our customers. The industrial packaging business is really focused on servicing customers' needs through a distribution model. As a result, we have a national footprint in most capital cities. We're also very focused in this business on tapping into the newest innovations that exist all around the world. For this business to be successful, we'll be continuing to get the basics right, improving our margins and leveraging our procurement capabilities, and right-sizing the business to lower our cost base. And we'll underpin that using technology to improve the customer experience and efficiency and automation. Rigid packaging is our third and final business unit. It manufactures and sources high quality bottles and closures for the food, healthcare, horticultural, and automotive industries. Its major focus is around driving new business opportunities, particularly in the food and beverage space, as well as the wellbeing segments. Our goal here is to advance the portfolio by focusing on really niche product capabilities, and that creates a point of differentiation, particularly for customers that are looking for something a little bit different. We'll also provide great plant efficiencies and the consolidation of our sourcing using our group procurement model. Key priorities for the business as we move forward starts with and ends with our people. We have to deliver a safety culture that sustains not only high performance, but also protects and supports those people that create the success in our business. We're moving to a phase of investment for growth in flexibles, and this will continue as we optimize our footprint. As you can see from the image, one of the key investments we've made is the 7-layer extruder that's being installed in our Melbourne facility. And this is one of the core activities that will enable us to close our Chester Hill facility and consolidate our footprint. The annualized benefits of that activity is expected to be around $7 million per annum from 2020 onwards. Establishing a stable platform for growth. These organisations, these companies that we've acquired over many years have been operating fairly independently. Our goal is to bring that organisation together into one and be focusing on people, our systems and our processes. Balance sheet strengthening is key. We have to continue to make sure that we optimise cash and we're well on track to achieve that. And finally, improving the industrial and rigids business margins and return those businesses to growth. The outlook for the company. Trading's improved over and above expected results from our last guidance. And as of May 27th, the company has updated its guidance to an EBITDA of $30 million for the financial year versus the prior year of 28.1. The company will continue to work very closely on working capital improvements, and through the course of June is expected to finalise net debt around $60 million. That's again around a $22 million improvement. That concludes the presentation today. And with that, I'll pause and ask if there's any questions. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Tim. Good overview. And just a reminder, you can use the webinar chat facility to ask questions, or please keep emailing me through and I will pose the questions. So we've got a range coming in here, Tim. So I'll group a few of them together. Firstly, just around COVID-19, one of the few companies in the market that's actually had, I guess, an earnings upgrade through the COVID-19. We've seen a lot of downgrades. Can you just talk a little bit about how the company is seeing the market out there? And there's a specific question regarding home shopping and e-commerce. Is that going to be a potentially big driver in terms of the shifting consumer pattern towards shopping at home, and how can PPG benefit from that?
So I might start with talking about, I guess, the general aspects of COVID-19. So the company really focused as we were going into the crisis with continuity of business being critical, and in doing so, staying in the health and well-being of our people. And through that process, we've been able to continue operations largely unaffected by the virus. In fact, we haven't had a single lost production days during the COVID-19 crisis. So first and foremost, that's enabled us to continue to operate, which has been absolutely fantastic and a great testament to the team. I would say when you look at the market verticals that we participate in, whether it be through agriculture, food, beverage, most of those market verticals have been critical ongoing services into the Australian community. So our portfolio has been largely supported throughout this crisis. There clearly has been some swings and roundabouts. There's been certain markets that have been affected more than others, but on balance, we've continued to operate and support the market segments that have also been critical for Australian consumers. In second to that, e-commerce is a significant emerging trend, a mega trend that I think is like many of us have experienced, having, working from home or being in isolation. We've tapped into e-commerce and digital technologies more so in the last quarter, and I think for Pro-Pac in particular, with its diverse product offering, the fact that flexible packaging offers a level of food safety into online food shopping services, that does present certainly some opportunities for the company to access that trend as time goes by. And we're well positioned to take advantage of those opportunities.
Great. Next question's around sort of the short-term operational outlook. It says, what are some of the short-term opportunities for operational improvements, and where do you think margins, EBITDA margins for the business can be? And then the third point of that question is, what level of sustaining CapEx would be required to deliver that into the business?
So in terms of short-term opportunities, I think for now our short-term opportunities are being materialised in the optimisation of our footprint. So as our gearing starts to improve, investing not only in new capabilities with the new extruder that I showed earlier, but also tightening up of our cost base is going to be critical, not only for the performance of the business, but also making sure that it can withstand any future economic challenges. So our focus right now is to improve the cost base and to continue to drive EBITDA performance in the business. And we've seen a lot of changes occur over the course of the last 3 months. I think that has given us opportunities to look at areas such as hand sanitizer or market segments that maybe have been relied upon from external or imported sources for us to tap into locally. And with local manufacturing capability, we're really well positioned to take advantage and support customers who need local manufacturing support. So that said, the EBITDA expectations on the business is, I'd say that we have 3 different streams which are fairly unique. And the flexibles business, I think we're sort of seeing best in practice around the world between sort of 10 to 12% return on sales. For industrial, Other distributors, best practice around the world will be sort of around the 7% mark. And for Rigid's business, probably around the 10%, 8 to 10% mark would be probably best practice. So for us, that would be our goal in the short term to try and drive towards those sort of EBITDA returns. Obviously, it's a very uncertain time, so we've got some goals here to improve our costs, which will improve our EBITDA earnings, but obviously the economic conditions are very uncertain still. Around CapEx, there will be an opportunity for us to continue to invest in the business, but we're well set up today. We can continue to service the market extremely well with the technology we have. There certainly isn't a huge technology deficit in our business. That said, it's important though, if you're going to be competitive and you're going to invest for organic growth, that we must continue to invest in new technology as that emerges. And I think the latest investment we'll be making in 7-layer extrusion will be one that will give us the opportunity to observe and learn and see how we can deploy that into the market and what benefits we can derive from that.
Great. Thanks, Tim. There was just a follow-up question on that one, just regarding the opportunities, or I guess following on from Chester Hill and the closure that you've seen there. What other opportunities are out there for further rationalisation of Pro-Pac's footprint in Australia and New Zealand, and how many sites optimally do you think you can actually get down to?
Yeah, I think that's a little uncertain at the moment. For now, what we're doing is we're working on a big project. I mean, the Chester Hill closure is significant. I mean, it's the largest footprint that we have out of any individual site. So for us, this is a big step forward. And before we commit to further structural change, one of the things that we will be doing is continuing to execute on that project initially and learning from it, and then we can make some further observations and decisions after that. But for now, Chester Hill is our main focus area, and we'll make further calls as to what the next step will be post that project's been executed. Excuse me. Where it could end up will be a function of, I guess, our customers' footprint and how that emerges over time. So again, we're going to need to want to observe the changes in the Australian manufacturing environment before we make any further decisions, and we'll be making those assessments as over the course of the next 12 months.
All right. Another question that's come in, and reminded everybody, either put them up on the Zoom chat there or keep emailing them through to me. We've got time for another 2 or 3 questions to come through. Tim, the next one is just around point of differentiation versus your peers. Sort of industrials and sort of the rigid seems to be quite commoditized, and flexible seems to be the opportunity for growth. Mm-hmm. Is that true of where PPG sort of advantages lie, is the question? And the second point to it is, within the flexibles, where do you see the growth coming from? Is it more from going into the food? Is it a beverage? Just where would the drivers be within that flexibles business?
Yeah, good question. So on the differentiation side in a distribution business, it's largely about having a very low cost operation. Obviously that's critical, but I think where you can bring differentiation in is in the customer experience and actually solving customer problems. So it's sometimes not often about the actual product you're deploying, but the solutions and the service that you can bring. And one of the things that our industrial and rigids business are exceptionally good at doing is dealing with the small to medium enterprise that perhaps doesn't have a marketing team or a packaging technologist or the overhead capabilities to be able to bring their products to life. So our role is really to be that consulting support and that integrated support that helps them achieve their goals. So I think in those businesses, there's more opportunity to differentiate, not just on the service, but also the customer experience, and digital technology clearly will be an avenue of exploration in that space. In relation to flexibles, the growth opportunity, as far as we see, is multifaceted, but I'd say the largest one will be in the food and beverage sectors. Both of those segments are significant and integral, and I think they are well supported by the online shopping point that you made earlier from the question that was asked. And the other piece to that is in and around digital technology in that space as well. So as time goes by, customizations, short runs, short lead times going to be critical, and we think that that will be a really important part of our ability to compete here in Australia and New Zealand, and there's not many other people doing it. So we think we're well positioned to really tap into the FMCG and food segments.
Great, thanks, Tim. One last question that has popped up a few times on the email. Net debt, been a good job in terms of reducing that down. What would be the target level you'd like to see debt down to before potentially looking at starting back with some dividends or investing into growth?
Yeah, we sort of targeted around a 2x gearing level originally, Craig, and it looks like we will definitely looks like we're going to achieve that. So for us, it's, you know, dividends is clearly a decision for the board, but in terms of where we want to get our gearing, obviously we wanted to get it into a range of control that enabled us to make some decisions to invest in the business as a starting point, which would then make it more robust and take cost out that will help us perform as well in the short to medium term. So big focus has been on debt reduction, but it's really for the purposes of reinvestment and accelerating the performance of the company in the first instance.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that overview, Tim, and the question and answers. There's a couple of questions that we didn't get to, but what we'll do is we'll circle back to you with those questions, and we'll get back to the investors that asked us. So again, thank you very much for your time today, Tim.
Thanks.
We'll let you get on with it. Now we will introduce the next presenter, which is Kyung Chan, who is the Executive Chairman of AU Make International. Now AU Make is a specialty retailer focused on a contemporary shopping experience for Asian travellers coming to the country, and also potential travellers that have yet to come to the country via their online platform. So that little introduction, Kyung, I'll turn it over to you. We'll get you to share your screen if you can.
Yes.
And we'll just talk the investors through the story.
Thanks, Craig. Is that screen sharing?
Hasn't come up yet.
Okay, 1 second.
Got it.
Got it?
Yep, if you just want to hit the slideshow at the top, perfect, there we go.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for joining, taking the time to join me today as I step through the investment presentation we put out this morning. As Craig mentioned before, AU Make, for people who aren't aware of what we do, we're a specialist retailer providing a contemporary shopping experience to Asian customers seeking high quality and authentic Australian and New Zealand products. What we're doing here is that we want to provide a really amazing experience to our customers. So when they come here, a lot of people would come here maybe once or twice in their lifetimes to Australia and New Zealand. We want them to have that shopping experience so they can tell their friends and family back home, who can then join us online. And it's because of that ability to grow online back in Asia that provides us a really unique path of growth.
Sorry, Kyung, just to interrupt there for a second.
Sure.
The presentation seems to have come off the screen. Do you just want to try and share one more time with us, please?
Sure, no problem. Sorry, Craig. How's that? Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
No problem. Sorry about that, everyone. Some technical issues there. On this slide, I'll step through this, through the business model of AU Make. We've got some key planks of our business, which I'll step through now. We have we want, as I alluded to before, we want to provide a contemporary shopping experience to our customers. We have 15 lifestyle stores located in Australia and in New Zealand, with products that are specifically catered to that demographic of customers. So we collect all the data through our travel agent relationships, and we're able to use that data to be able to provide an experience that's tailored and customized to that particular customer. And this is enhanced by our staff who are long in Australia and New Zealand for some time. They are able to impart that lifestyle experience to our customers, and it provides for an overall a really contemporary and pleasing experience for them to purchase products. A lot of people, I think, are aware of the power of the Asian consumer, particularly the Chinese consumer, and we don't think that that's a thing that's going to change into the future. In fact, it's going to change and it's going to actually be enhanced in different ways. So, and I'll step through that in the coming slides. But I think just making the point here is that they are still there, and at some point the borders will reopen and the Asian tourists will return, and we're positioning our company to be there when that happens. But we're very aware of the changing Chinese consumer. So, and what we mean by that is that using these examples on this slide, they want more from their experience online than just to buy something. They want to actually have a different take from that, and that's what we're seeing in China. In fact, China has moved well ahead, a number of years ahead, to where we are here in Australia. So our customers want that. When they take the time to visit a physical store, they also want to see something and to feel something that they haven't seen before. So we know that that's something that can provide, again, can add to that customer experience. We also provide them with the ability to purchase those products using different things. Different financial products. We announced on Friday our progression into the BNPL space and providing that service to our customers. That's something that's really important. And we know that when Tencent released the FanFu credit feature through their WeChat application, that's going to only accelerate, I think, the move towards BNPL for our customers, so they can purchase products in different ways. And lastly, the products that they want to buy is also, we believe, is going to be moving and accelerating towards the health and lifestyle products, particularly with what's happened with COVID, and that will be something that we're pretty sure is going to happen. So just expanding into the products that we sell, we've got four main categories. We have the healthcare products, skincare and cosmetics, dairy products, and wool. The point here for this slide is that we offer genuine quality and premium products to our customers. For example, the health essence product category, which is our health supplement range, it's all TGA approved, and we're actually in the midst of a very detailed process of reinvigorating our own brand product portfolio. So this is something that is very, very important for us to ensure that the products that we sell meet or exceed our customers' expectations. The next slide here gives a breakdown of the demographic and the different customers in our customer base. The first one are the tour groups, which I'll go into. The second category are the free independent travelers, and third are the students and Daigou, which are all consolidated that into our online store, which is then feeds back to our customers back in China. Our relationships with the Chinese travel agents is a key differentiator for us to other companies listed on the ASX. These relationships have been built for over the last 20 years, and on a daily basis, we would speak to up to 50 of these travel agents back in China. Now we think we think that there's probably 150 travel agents in China who deal specifically with the ANZ market. So we've got 1/3 of those. It's a key part of our growth to increase the pool size of travel agents that we deal with. But those travel agents provide us an amazing set of data. We know the ages of our customers before they come, their incomes, their occupations, where they're from. So we can determine their propensity to spend, and also the types of things that they want. We understand that very, very well. So we are able then to compensate and pay commissions to the travel agents to include our stores in the travel itineraries when they visit Australia and New Zealand. And in our stores, on average, they spend about $1,000 per head, and that does not include online stores. So this is a key part of our moat, I suppose, if you think about it that way, compared to other businesses. We are really, really strong in this area. An emerging trend, which leads me on to the next point, is that there's an emerging trend that's coming and will become a stronger and stronger feature of the Asian tourist demographic in the coming years, particularly with what happens with COVID. Prior to COVID, there were 40% of all inbound Chinese were FIT. And FIT, free independent travelers, are customers and tourists who may not generally form part of the official group. They're free to travel. They're generally younger, a demographic of between 20 to 35 years old, and they have a really high lifetime value of customers. So when they buy something, when they enjoy something, they'll do it again and again and again. And importantly, when they may have those experiences, then they're really high users of social media, WeChat, Weibo. They really understand how to tell people about what they've experienced, which is very different from our previous customer demographic. So we think they are extremely important to the growth of our business. So we are developing our stores online and offline, providing the BNPL options to pay. We want to make sure that we are front and center when the borders reopen and the free independent travelers can return to Australia and New Zealand. While we're waiting for the borders to open, we have a really strong set of existing customers. And I think a lot of people be aware of AUMEC and our focus on the Daigou market. It will continue to be a focus of our business while we wait for the tourists to return. We actually, the Daigou customers that we have are actually relatively agnostic to price. So they are people with relationships back in China, and they want similar things to tourists. They want products which are new, which they haven't seen before, and we're able to provide they actually come to expect better service from us than they do from our peers and our competitors. So we actually dive deep into that particular segment of Daigou, and we also keenly are waiting for the arrival of international students, Asian students coming back, because they are also a key part of our customer base. I've touched on the online, how important online is to our business, and it certainly is a key plank of our future strategy. Online for us, particularly, it actually reflects our strength in our physical stores. We have these travel agent relationships, which I touched on earlier. Our online business can grow into that and can enhance that experience. So for customers who have either traveled to Australia and New Zealand before, or who are planning to visit, they can now engage with our business, and we can sell products and we can promote products to them that are new and premium via online, which gives us that growth that I was speaking to before. And the online experience will now be able to complement our physical store experience in the future when the borders reopen. It leads us to my next point, which is the database. The database, we have 40,000 customers on our database, which is growing. We think that this database is going to be unique in Australia as it grows, particularly when the tourists return. We're able to harvest all of that data to encourage repeat purchasing from our customers, and then using that data again to improve the online experience so that they can send it to other people and recommend it to their friends and family. That is something that we think has got the ability to grow exponentially, and it's something we're really excited about. We want to be a data-rich, data-driven company into the future. So the outlook for us is, we're not waiting here just for the borders to reopen. We have a lot of really exciting initiatives that we're working on now. our in-store experience, for those who may have visited our stores previously, if I encourage you to come back. We're progressively rolling the opening of those as the economy opens up. But we want people to come in and just have our in-store experience to exceed their expectations. Our visual merchandising will improve significantly. We want to provide all the BNPL optionality options that they will come to hopefully expect. We want to invigorate our product mix. We think that, as I touched on earlier, the products around health and lifestyle will become even more important now. We want to provide them those new and exciting things to look at. And then through that, we want people to scan their QR codes to join our online database, where then we can promote to them, either if they choose to stay here in Australia or they return back to Asia or China. We can continue to engage with them, and then we can encourage them to purchase more products when they return. And finally, we're waiting for the borders to open. We will be positioning AUMake again to be front and center of that of the Asian tourists returning. And I think that is something that is going to be is probably something we don't understand at the moment in terms of how big it could be, but we really think that that's something that is going to be really important for us, and actually the whole Australian New Zealand economy as well. The arrival of FIT is going to be prominent. I won't go too much on the financial overviews, because this is for the last half of the financial year. The quick point I just want to make here is that even though we had it was very early on in the amalgamation of the AUMake and Broadway businesses, even in the half year, our financial performance improved significantly, and we were able to deliver an underlying EBITDA of $0.4 million. So I think that's something that we were just at the cusp of. Obviously, COVID has changed some of that, but as hopefully that people can understand, it's actually allowed us to improve our business significantly while the borders have been shut. This slide gives us a little bit more, readers a little bit more transparency and understanding of the products we sell. If I can touch on those three graphs below, I think the striking thing on the revenue stream on the bottom left-hand side is how much health supplement products we actually sell compared to dairy products, and you can see the differences in margins in between. That is something that I think I think people would find really interesting. Our online sales is also a third of our total sales, which is, again, through our WeChat stores, through our online presence. It's something that will become even, I think that percentage will shift even further in the future. And then on the bottom right-hand slide, on the bottom right-hand part of the slide, you can see as a percentage of revenue for our own brand sales compared to total sales, how much it helps us drive our margin expansion as we increase the sales of our own brands. The last slide we have here, I just want to touch on the board for those who may not be aware. I'm very fortunate to be supported by two very experienced executives in Joshua Zhao and Jackie Yang, who are experts in their fields in the local customer demographic, and also our tourists and the travel agents. And we are well supported by our two non-executives, Mr. Quinton Flannery, who runs a large family office here in Australia, and Mr. Oliver Horn, who was previously the managing director of Swiss Wellness for Australia, New Zealand, and North America. So we have a wealth of experience, a really diverse set of backgrounds, and together with our management and staff, we're really excited to be able to, and looking forward to executing the things that I mentioned before as our business continues to grow. Thanks, Craig.
Excellent. Thanks, Kion. Good presentation. I've got a few questions that are popping up onto the screen, which we'll go through in the next few minutes.
Sure.
Obviously the borders are closed at the moment, no tourists coming in. Can you just talk us through how the online sales are going for the company, and just what you've seen in terms of popular products over the past month or so with that online store dominating the business?
Yeah. So that's from late January, when the borders when the groups were was stopped from coming from China, and then a week or two later, the Australian government closed the border. We actually saw a significant spike in product sales online because, and all around the world we saw evidence of pantry stuffing, and we were not unique to that. Since that point in time, we've seen normalization in online, and we're still seeing very strong growth in the health supplements, the dairy products. People have changed the way that they've been engaging with online. So our customers, a lot of customers have never purchased online before, and now they have. So they've formed a habit, and we're seeing that coming through on the online sales. And we, and I think it's been common commentary from a lot of retailers that we think that it's been a structural change. So we expect online sales to continue to be a really strong feature of our business, and I think I've spoken about that at some length in this presentation already.
Great, thank you. The next question was just around, I guess, country diversity. It was just a question on Chinese tourists have sort of been the main focus for AUMake in the past, but with increasing numbers, of South Korean and other Asian tourists coming into the country and shopping online, is that a potential area that you think you may expand onto over time?
Yeah, and I thank the question for that. That's they're right. Chinese is certainly a key focus for obvious reasons, but we actually were seeing increasing visitation from Korean travel groups who we also have relationships with, Korean travel agents. And then the next one that we were going to, the next country we were going to address was actually Taiwan. And coincidentally, Craig, they're actually the top three: Chinese tourists, Korean tourists, and Taiwanese tourists. They're actually the top three spenders per head when they visit Australia. So they're key priorities. And we certainly will be focusing on the growth of those key markets as well, in addition to China, when the borders reopen. So it's a very good question.
Next question was just around sort of the student, the DIGO network, more so on the students. So just with the education sector, the most likely to reopen to reopen and allow foreigners into the country, what are AUMake doing to focus on that student and youth market with your products and marketing strategies?
Yes, so we actually organically, naturally see a flow because where the stores are positioned and our brand in the market, the majority of students that will come here, when they start inquiring about where they purchase products, they will get some names and but for us, we are in that premium part. That's where we position ourselves. So the positioning of our brand is very important. The products and the experience they have in our stores when they do visit are important. We have, like I said, we have stores near the University of Sydney. It's something that it's all combining. And then the staff that we have are also very aware of what they want, the type of products that they want. It's something that we've actually experienced before, but hopefully, like we were talking about before, the next time they come back when they are allowed back in, Craig, I hope that they would enjoy a much improved and enhanced experience than maybe they were expecting.
Excellent, thanks, Keon. And look, running out of time, but one last question that has popped up. Just in terms of the online, it's roughly about a third of the revenue at the moment. The question is, where would you like to, or where do you anticipate that to go over time?
I think that's a great question. I think for our business, in the shorter to medium term, we would hope that 50% of our sales, I think, would come from online. So a 50-50 split between online and physical stores. And then if I was to extend that out, if I can provide some vision here, if we were to extend that time frame out to the next 5 to 10 years, I think because of the way our database is growing, the referrals, the number of people visiting our physical stores who can then joining us online, I think that number can grow exponentially. And I think that what the comment that I think is that we're very aware that customers may not just want to buy products. If you have a customer on the database, we have to meet their needs in a variety of ways, which may then extend to other things outside retail products.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, we've run out of time there, Keon. It was a very comprehensive overview, and there's a few questions that we'll circle back to people we didn't get time to answer those very specific questions. So, Kyung, thank you very much again for taking the time and to talk everybody through the AUMAC story.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent. And last in our session this afternoon, we have Ross Anderson, who is the chairman of Murray Cod Australia, which is one of the country's leading aquaculture companies. Now, Ross, I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me.
Can I try sharing mine?
Yeah, of course you can.
Right.
If you've got it going, yep.
I've been disabled from sharing screen.
Okay. We've got
Should work now.
You've got permission now, Ross, so give it a try.
Can everybody see that?
It's just about, yep, it is up.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you, Craig, and thank you everybody for taking the time to hear about Murray Cod Australia. Murray Cod Australia sells our fish under the brand of AQUNA, Sustainable Murray Cod. The word AQUNA means flowing waters in Aboriginal language, and we put a Q in there to signify that it's an aquaculture company, and that through technology and innovation, you actually end up with a better tasting fish than you could get if you caught one in the wild. One of the things about Murray Cod Australia is that it has a really great investment proposition from an listed aquaculture point of view in Australia. It's green and sustainable. We don't have problems from an environmental point of view. We have a very low environmental footprint. None of our fish can ever escape from our land-based ponds. None of our water can ever reach any native waterways. We build our ponds effectively in the middle of the desert in an irrigation area, so that we completely control the environmental footprint. And it gives us really strong synergies with irrigated agriculture, because we have the nutrient-enriched water from the ponds going out to irrigate crops and pastures on the adjoining fields. So from that point of view, it's very strong. We have a very high growth model, and we're looking to reinvest into growth effectively for the next decade. When we listed this company, our productive capacity was about 40 tonnes per annum. Now it's over 1,000 tonnes per annum, and we're looking at a productive capacity of 10,000 tonnes per annum by 2030. One of the things that people often look at there, they go, oh, productive capacity 1,000 tonnes, so you're producing 1,000 tonne of fish now. And I always tell investors and shareholders, look, we're not producing 1,000 tonne right now, because it takes us 2 years to grow a fish. So it was about 12 months or so that we got up to that capacity. We've got those fish in the water, and they'll be coming out over the next 12 to 18 months, coming out available for sale. So that's an important thing for people to understand about us. It's a cycle with livestock, and it does take time for them to grow up to a saleable size. We have rapidly growing demand for our fish as people taste it, which is great for us. And they're pretty high barriers for entry for anybody else looking to produce the fish, which is also very nice for us. But the most important thing for us is that this fish is a luxury product. It's highly sought after as a table fish by consumers and chefs. Before COVID hit, and we'll talk about COVID later, before COVID hit, it was, we were delivering fish into Switzerland, Germany, New York, the West Coast, or basically across the US, and into Japan. And because it's a very, very high fat content, white fleshed fish, it gets a higher price premium. So, if you're looking at as a comparison to something like a hog equivalent for salmon, we're achieving roughly 24, 25 bucks a kilo. I've spoken about the unique opportunity in land-based aquaculture. One of the things that's really critical, we see a global population continuing to grow and declining wild fish stocks. And it's interesting that if you look at the fishing numbers coming through from wild catch, they don't look like they're declining so terribly badly. They are declining year on year, and there are more oceans being locked up. But if you looked at the improvements in productivity that have occurred in wild fishing in the oceans over the last 30 years, you would be amazed. The boats are bigger, they have satellite mapping technology, it tells them where the warm currents are. They can spot schools of fish, you know, from the sky with drones and even with satellites. Their productivity has improved dramatically, and yet the catch is still declining. In every other industry around the world, particularly food production, productivity's increased 2 or 3-fold, but in this case, it's gone down. We've got a global demand for protein that I think everybody knows about, and especially for high quality fish protein. And we've been able to map all that together with this magnificent innovation that allows existing local infrastructure to be paired with a premium native fish to produce this outstanding product. And so the question is, what is this outstanding product? It's one of the world's largest freshwater fish. Historically, it was a premium table fish, particularly in Victoria. You know, the restaurants and tables of Melbourne were eating a lot of it back in the 1880s. From the 1880s through until about World War I. It was one of the most widely consumed fish in Melbourne. One of the reasons for that, of course, was that nobody wanted to go fishing on the Bass Strait in the middle of winter in a sailboat, whereas you could come up to the calm rivers and billabongs along the Murray River, and you could. Sorry, did I lose my screen? That's better. Okay. You could go up to the calm rivers and billabongs of the Murray River and harvest pretty much as you liked. And what happens to most things that taste good and are easy to consume is they started to become extinct. And so by the 1950s, the wild catch was down to 300 odd tonnes. By the late 60s, it was down to 30 tonnes. And it's really a product that became forgotten by Australian consumers, metropolitan consumers in particular, over the last 50 years. It's currently listed as a vulnerable species, and commercial fishing of the species is prohibited in Australia. I doubt that it will ever be brought back as a commercially available species to fish. So we've got two distinct differences as a listed aquaculture company. The first one is our land-based production model, which allows us to produce our fish in a very friendly environmental manner, as I mentioned, and also to be able to save cost and safety and time and control the risk to a large degree, because we can control what happens in each one of those ponds, whereas, you know, out in the ocean, it's almost impossible for a producer to control what happens with the environment. But the one that I'd really like to talk about is that AQUNA cod is not a luxury, it's a luxury product, it's not a commodity. And so if we talked about something in aquaculture, I don't know, we talk about barramundi, for example. You know, in Australia, there's 22,000 tonnes of barramundi consumed in Australia every year. 2,000 tonnes of that is wild caught fish, which is magnificent saltwater, beautiful tasting fish. 5,000 tonnes is farmed in Australia, and 15,000 tonnes of barramundi is imported into Australia every year from places like Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. And so if you ever go to a local pub or a club in your town or suburb, it's very likely that you're consuming an imported barramundi. If we looked at something like salmon, you know, there's 65,000 tonne of salmon produced in Tasmania every year, but in Norway they produce 2 million tonnes. There's a huge wild catch of it in Alaska and Canada and Russia. It's produced up and down the coasts of South America. It's become a commodity, not a product that can command a very high price premium. So the land-based production we've spoken about. The other things that I mightn't have mentioned are, you know, there's no bad weather issues. We don't have problems with seals or sharks. Nobody needs a boat to get to one of our ponds. That picture shows a couple of our ponds there with the fish cage systems in them. We've used very little water. You know, we'll use far less water growing fish than you would growing a crop of cotton or almonds or rice or anything else like that. one nice thing is because we're land-based in the inland, freshwater doesn't rust our equipment as rapidly as saltwater, so we get much longer time usage out of our equipment. Our risk issues, if there are any disease or other issues, are usually limited to one pond at a time, where rising ocean temperatures are not an issue for us. We focused very much on making AQUNA cod a global luxury food brand. And we based our brand really on four main foundations. The first one is that it really does taste good. Our premium taste credentials are built on real substance. If you eat this fish, you'll know how good it really tastes. And I'm talking about AQUNA cod as opposed to any other sort of Murray cod that comes along our that you may have consumed, because if you eat one out of the wild, they can have an earthy sort of taste to them. The technology that our guys are using just produce this magnificent, clean, white flesh that people can't believe. They really love the taste of it. So that's the first foundation of our brand. The second one is that innovation is at our core. Our guys are always looking to find a better way. And so if anybody's looked at our announcements over the last couple of years, you will have seen things like, you know, our dynamic stocking regime that's been introduced, or the regime they've been introducing to put fingerlings straight into ponds rather than running through a RAS system, save a lot of capital that way. The third part of our brand is that people will value a product with integrity. So we tell our customers, when they eat our fish, we can tell you who its mother and father is, what's been in the water, what it's been fed, how it's been treated, until the day it hits your dinner plate. And so we're one of the only, well, one of the very few in the world, commercial fish producers, fish farmers, who don't use any antibiotics in our products, in our ponds. And you know, when I was in China 18 months or so ago, they were really, really impressed by that idea. And the last one is that our story is built around our impact on planet Earth, which really is about the sustainability and the environmental friendliness of it. There are pretty big barriers to entry. This fish, not only does it not grow anywhere else in the world, it doesn't even grow anywhere else in Australia. It only grows in the Murray-Darling Basin. They grow in no other river system in the world. Commercial fishing is banned, as we mentioned before, and actually the listing I've got there that's listed as a vulnerable species, it's actually been moved to an endangered species in the last 12 months. As you saw all the events on the Darling River last summer where there were fish dying and so on. There's quite a bit of difficulty in sourcing broodstock. You need the licensing from the government to be able to source it, and then you need the skills to be able to source it from the wild. What we've been doing with our broodstock, we've begun at this stage a very rough genetic selection program, looking for a cleaner flesh, a whiter flesh, and a higher fat content. And over time, what we'll have is that AQUNA cod will become effectively the Wagyu of fish, and we'll be looking to have a product then that nobody else will have, because AQUNA cod might become a subspecies of its own, just as you have Wagyu beef or Hereford beef. They're all subspecies of cattle. AQUNA cod will become a subspecies of Murray cod, and it'll be, you know, a higher fat content, a whiter flesh, and a product all of its own. The environmental conditions for growing are limited to the Murray-Darling Basin. You know, we have seen in the past fingerlings go to China, where many of them die. The intellectual property of our cage and pond system is unique in the way that our guys implement it. Look, cage systems for growing fish have been around in Southeast Asia for probably 5,000 years. But the unique way in which our guys do it is something that really produces this high quality fish, and it's very unusual. There are very limited spawning production facilities in place, and we'll talk about that later, because we've just picked up another hatchery that we purchased back on the 30th of April. We settled on that on the 30th of April. And where we are based down in the Murrumbidgee irrigation area, the availability of high quality water and land just make it an ideal place to be able to expand. So it makes it fantastic for us. Our business model is pretty simple. We hatch the fish. We own 2 separate hatcheries to limit our risk and to be able to provide enough small fish stock for our business, we purchased another hatchery called Murray-Darling Fisheries, which I just mentioned we settled on in April. So our fish basically used to head from the hatchery to the nursery. They're kept in recirculated tanks with the environment controlled until they're about 100 grams in size. And then the fingerlings would either go out to our own ponds or to our contract grower ponds. And in about 18 months after that, we have a fish that's ready for harvest and for sale. In 2020, we've acquired the hatchery we just spoke about. This increases our fingerling production capacity by about 2.5 times, which is fantastic for us. So as we grow, we now have the production capacity for small fish to be able to produce big fish, because if you can't get small fish, you can't grow any big ones. So that was a major acquisition for us and very important. Those of you who have followed us might be aware that we're looking to put in a site that has 35 ponds and increases our holding capacity by another couple of million fish. Our current capacity inside the company, not including contract growers, is that we have 192 cages. When this site's complete, it will add another or an additional 420 cages to our productive capacity. So it's a major initiative for us. We were looking to make that a much faster development. At this stage, we've got 8 ponds constructed and ready to go for spring. With the COVID restrictions that came in and the fact that by March, nearly 20% of our sales were hitting overseas markets, we've decided to go with 8 ponds there because we know that our domestic growth will handle that. It may put us a little bit behind, but it certainly makes our company fairly bulletproof in terms of its capacity to grow and its ability to fund itself going forward. COVID-19 had an impact on us. As I said, by March, 20% of our total sales were going to overseas markets. They stopped, and we immediately moved our focus towards domestic retail markets. Most of our fish traditionally would go to top-end restaurants around the world and in Australia. So we moved our focus and looked at how we distributed fish, and we were a little bit surprised at the start to find that domestic demand picked up dramatically. And perhaps because during COVID-19, people weren't able to go to a restaurant, they'd say, well, I might spoil myself with some food this week. I'll buy a lobster, or I'll buy a piece of Wagyu beef, or I'll buy a piece of AQUNA cod. And so our domestic sales picked up quite dramatically, which was very good for us. And we're still experiencing good, strong growth there. Our numbers are pretty basic. We sell our fish, this is whole fish, head on, gut in, as opposed to salmon where they sell a salmon head on, gut out, a hulk. We sell whole round fish, so we sell them with the gut in. We typically get about 20 bucks a kilo. Our growing costs is just under $8, and our selling costs are about 1.5. About $1.50, and our average weight has been increasing, particularly as overseas markets started wanting bigger fish. And as we moved into Japan and they started using the fish more and more for sashimi, we found that they were wanting bigger fish for the sashimi market. And so our average sale weight's actually been increasing, which has been nice. Current number of fish in stock is about 1.7 million. As I say, we're targeting 10,000 tonnes of production by the year 2030. We're not looking to add contract growers. As we've taken on this new, as it was termed by somebody, the super site, where we're adding the 35 ponds. We're not looking to add contract growers. Our major focus is on growing our capacity at our super site. One of the nice things we find that as we increased our production, our economies of scale are continuing to lower production cost. So, a very simple example of that might have been when we started out, we used we were getting our oxygen from oxygen bottles, and our oxygen cost got up to, somewhere near 10,000 bucks a month. We invested 30 grand in a huge oxygen vessel next to our roads. Our oxygen cost went down to about 1,200 bucks a month. So things like that, that's a very simple example of how economies of scale start to really make a difference for you as your size increases and your average cost per kilo of production really gets better. Our new hatchery will add revenue in spring 2020, and I was just reading an article on the Sydney Morning Herald saying that the government's looking to put 2 million fish out into the water this spring. So we should be one of the primary suppliers to the government, as we have always been in the past. And that could be quite significant for us come late 2020 calendar year. From a summary point of view, look, global fish consumption is rising while the wild catch is falling. Aquaculture must grow. It's very simple. If it takes, it takes 8 kilos of food to produce a kilo of beef. It takes about 4 kilos of food to produce a kilo of pork. It takes about 1.5 to 2 kilos of food to produce a kilo of chicken, and it takes 1.2 kilos of food to produce AQUNA sustainable Murray cod, one of the best freshwater fish in the world. So if we're going to feed the world with protein when there's 10 billion people on this planet in 20 or 30 years' time, the only way sustainably we're going to be able to give them that protein is through aquaculture. And we've got to do that in a sustainable and environmentally friendly manner. Strong demand and premium pricing for AQUNA sustainable Murray cod seems to be growing. I was saying before, people had forgotten about it. As they taste it and as it becomes more widely known, we had it on MasterChef there a couple of weeks ago where Gordon Ramsay was cooking AQUNA Murray cod. It becomes more widely known. We see that demand picks up, and the more people who eat it, the more that people seem to want to buy it. We've spoken about how sustainable it is and eco-friendly it is. And so far, we've had certainly a lot of support from government and environmentalists in terms of the way we operate our business and the way that it can continue to expand and have minimal environmental impact. It's presently a high profit margin business with high barriers to entry. And so we're looking to grow it fairly quickly over the next few years so that we dominate this industry before somebody else, or we dominate this species before somebody else gets into it. There's a huge growth potential for AQUNA, with the company now having proven its capacity to grow. And over the next couple of years, you're going to see some really big things coming out of this company. Any questions?
Thanks, Ross. Yes, we do have a few questions coming in. A couple are really around, I guess, the distribution channels, and there's probably 3 on that. So firstly is just if you can give an update in terms of the domestic versus offshore split of the sales, and of that offshore split, how much is going into China roughly at present? We
don't sell any fish to China. We never have. Chinese came and saw us and spoke to us some time back. That would probably be the last market we would go to. We haven't been able to keep up with the growth in demand for this product that's been occurring ever since we commenced. And the idea behind this company is that we're going to have a global luxury food brand. It's our belief that the Chinese market will value our product much more highly when it is established as a global luxury food brand. So yeah, we've never sold any product to China, and it's unlikely that we would over the next few years as we grow.
Great.
And we don't like the vulnerability of, one of the problems that happened when we had 40 tons of productive capacity, we had a Chinese lady come and see us and say, oh, they look great, I'll take 10 ton a week. We said, well, I'm sorry, we only produce 40 ton a year at the moment. And so some of the scale of the orders that they want just aren't where we want to be. We'd rather spread our customer base around a bit.
Yeah. Distribution network in Australia, how do you get it out to the customers? Is it via wholesalers, fish markets? Can you talk through that process, please?
Yeah, basically we go out through wholesalers. We don't know, we're not in the game of running around with expensive little distribution models in capital cities. Australia is a very big country. Freight is a killer in Australia. For us, we don't want to be running around suburbs and things trying to distribute our product. We use high quality distributors in each of the capital cities, and they have the relationship and they move the product for us domestically. So some go into high-end restaurants, some go into retailers, but our distributor, and look, we have had discussions with a variety of different retailers, but at this stage, we've continued to stick loyally with our distributors.
Great. Next question, and you addressed this, but it was a follow-up question, just around water security issues in the Murray-Darling. Periods of drought, are you confident, guaranteed of getting the water that you require for your ponds?
Yep, that's a big question people always ask. And the first step is we use very little water. The second thing is that we're actually inside the Murrumbidgee irrigation area, the MIA. The MIA is on the Murrumbidgee River, which is the most, all the water comes down from the Snowy Hydro scheme. So when they're generating electricity, water gets released down through the tumid area and it comes down to us. Our high security water licenses in the last 2020, so in the last 110 years that scheme's been operating, have never been without water. We don't see supply of the irrigation water as a risk, but what we have also done is we also have bores on our properties, underground water. And so the underground water is 100% secure. So from a water security point of view, we're wearing belts and suspenders, if you like.
Thank you. And then just the next question, probably the last one we have, just in essence of time there, Ross, was you had a good slide there on the barriers to entry, which I think partly addressed this question that came in. But what's the competition network or the competition like out there? The questions that are referenced, there's quite a few sort of salmon producers out there, quite a few oyster producers out there, aquacultural producers. Any sort of major competition in the Murray cod space, and then could there be some?
Look, there was one producer producing fish out of a shed near Goulburn. Their fish had a very different profile with customers in the marketplace, in that when we were achieving $20 plus a kilo for our fish at the Melbourne Seafood Centre, their fish in the same market on the same day would be lucky to achieve $10. Our distributor would say to us, he'd say, mate, if this was flathead or snapper or any other type of fish, he said, I wouldn't get 50 cents premium for it. He said, but I'm getting a massive premium for your fish. That produces, I believe, scaling back their operations over the last few months, but it's not appropriate for me to talk about them, so I don't really know. The only other few producers who produce out of ponds, I don't think there'd be a single one who does more than 20 tonne a year. And there might be, we might be able to count 3 or 4 of them inside the Murray-Darling Basin who produce them. And again, they're not producing the quality levels and getting the price premiums that we are. So the barriers to entry for someone to, number 1, get the capital, number 2, get the brood stock, number 3, be able to build hatcheries from scratch. We effectively have the 2 biggest hatcheries, native fish hatcheries in Australia now. Would be very, very difficult for them. Anybody trying to copy us, I'm not saying couldn't be done, but if anybody wanted to do it, they'd be 50 or 60 million bucks and 5 years behind us.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, Ross. I think that's probably, we've gone a little bit over time now. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time today and for all of the presenters. And then Ron's just popped back up on the screen. So I'll switch back to you, Ron, to wrap the session up for this afternoon. Thanks again, Ron.
Thanks, Ross, and thanks, Craig, and thank you everybody for dialing in, both for this session and those that were on the morning session. We are delighted to host these events, allow CEOs to access investors and tell them about the companies and what they're doing and their growth plans. This is now our 3rd in the series so far. We're about to head into blackout period with result season coming up, so we probably won't be having many sessions like this for the next few weeks, but we will plan to continue to do these sort of events whenever we can, and look forward to seeing you all again. Recordings of the presentations will be made available on the Market Discovery website, marketdiscovery.com.au, And of course, as Ross, if you have any questions or further interest in finding out more about Murray cod, please contact either Ross or Craig. And if any of the other companies are of interest to you that presented today, please let us know. We're happy to facilitate further information flow and meetings if they're of interest. So thank you all very much, Ross. Thank you again for your time in presenting to the group, and I hope everybody has a lovely afternoon. Thank you very much.
Ron.
Have a good day. Bye.